Well, good morning, Pulaski Christian Church. It is a great day. It's wonderful weather here in Marion to be stuck inside the house. I know it's driving me crazy. It's probably driving you guys crazy too, being stuck inside and a stay at home order, but at least we can kind of be together and still do a little bit of church here online. And so I hope you've been enjoying that, and I hope it's been helpful for you, hearing from the Word of God as I present it to you. Uh, so this week, a new scandal, because there's a new scandal every week. Um, we had kind of had less since we've been in quarantine with the whole COVID thing. But then it comes out that in the middle of this stay at home order, the governor sent his wife and children to Florida for vacation. Scandal! That was fun. Um, it's a scandal, right? And there's new scandals all the time. I was looking back over the years of some of the scandals that have been out. A popular one obviously was the Monica Lewinsky thing with when Bill Clinton was in office. That was a big scandal. Some of you remember Watergate when Nixon was in office. That was a huge scandal. And you know, there were the White House crashers with Obama. Two people that just showed up to a party that they weren't invited to and snuck in somehow or something like that. Um, we have things all the time. We have football players who get involved in dog fighting, or getting, they cheat on their wives. Actors who get divorced because of infidelity, or because they've been caught doing drugs, or whatever. It's especially fun when you have the old Disney stars. They used to be on the Disney Channel, and now they're a train wreck, from Lindsay Lohan to Miley Cyrus. They're just absolute train wrecks. Even though we all thought they were wholesome kids when they were on Disney. But there's scandals everywhere. There's people who are lying about things or trying to hide things, and we've gotten to the point where we just kind of accept it, right? We're like, well, that's what happens. That's life, right? Lying has almost become a necessary sin. If you remember a while back, we did our series Necessary Sins, kind of tongue in cheek, looking at some of the sins that we treat them like they're normal. They're just a normal part of life, and lying is one of those, right? Lying is something that people feel is just, it's acceptable. It's what you have to do in society, right? Does this dress make me look fat? Of course not, right? Lying. But lying is a problem because, obviously it's a problem because it's a sin, and because you should tell the truth. But even more because lying speaks to your integrity, right? It speaks to your integrity. I went on a visit this week. I'm still in training as the chaplain at hospice, and so I went on a visit with one of the social workers to kind of shadow her, and met a man who is 100 years old, and he claims, and everyone in his family believes him, that he has never lied to his wife. That's impressive. That's impressive. I wish I could say that. I bet most of you wish you could say that. That you have never lied to your spouse. Integrity is important. Integrity, one of the best definitions that I've heard is integrity is who you are in the dark, right? When nobody's around, when nobody's watching, when nobody can see who you are, that's integrity. If you are the same person in the dark that you are in the light, that's integrity, right? Who are you when you're all alone, when you're by yourself? Is that the same person that you are when you're out in public, or when you're amongst friends? Are you a different person when you're with different friends? Right? Are you a chameleon that you change your personality and who you are depending on who you're around? I want to read a story today from the Bible. It's probably one you've heard before, but I think sometimes the classics are some of the best. Some of those ones that we all heard growing up in Sunday school. But when you look at them as an adult, there's a lot there, right? We read about David and Goliath and we think, oh, I know that story. But if you go back and reread it as an adult, there's a lot going on there that you didn't realize as a kid, right? Well, my friend Frank did a series called No Ordinary Sunday School Lesson, where he went back and looked at some of the classic ones, Noah and the Ark, and David and Goliath, and the one we're going to do today, Daniel and the Lion's Den, and looked at how they're not all that child-friendly when you actually look at them. So we're going to look at Daniel, a man of integrity, and we're going to be in Daniel chapter 6, and if you want to follow along, you can grab your Bible and read this in Daniel 6, or you can just listen to me, but let's dive in here and I'll give you a little commentary as we go along here. All right, Daniel chapter 6, verse 1. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be throughout the whole kingdom. So, Darius is the king. He's in charge now. If you remember when they were first hauled off to Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar was king. But since then, the Babylonians have been defeated by the Persians, and the Persians are in charge now, and Darius is the Persian king. And this is important because we often think of Daniel in the Lion's Den as Daniel being a fairly young guy. If we look at the timeline here, I believe Darius is the third king that Daniel has served under, and Daniel was an old man. I mean, we're looking at a dude who's probably like in his 70s. All right, some of you guys that are up there in age and think, well, serving God's for the younger guys. Daniel's probably in his 70s here. He's an old man. And Darius sets up these satraps. They're kind of like city council members almost. They're official. They're rulers of the kingdom, right? He's going to tell us here, verse 2, and over them 3 high officials, of whom Daniel was one, to whom these satraps would give account, so that the king might suffer no loss. So he's got these like 120 or so, or 120 like city council guys, maybe mayors. They're officials. They're in charge, but they're not like they're not like the president or anything. So if we're comparing it to kind of our system of government, these 120 satraps, they're probably like almost like a mayor. All right, and then these 3 high officials would be kind of like the governors who report to the president. If we're looking at just the executive branch, all right, because this isn't a democratic thing like we have. This is a monarchy with a king, and so if we're looking at just the executive branch, these satraps would kind of be like the mayors of the different towns, and then they have 3 governors of the states, and then the king. All right, that's kind of a way to look at it. And Daniel is one of these guys. He's one of the high officials. So it's him and 2 other guys who are pretty much over the whole kingdom, and they kind of oversee these satraps who are the lower level, kind of like middle managers, so that the kingdom runs smoothly. King doesn't lose money or honor or anything like that. All right, verse 3. Then this Daniel became distinguished above all the other high officials and satraps, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. So the king is planning to set Daniel above the other guys, right? He's going to move Daniel up, create a position for Daniel above the other 3 high officials. The other high officials probably move another guy in there, so there's still 3. But then they report to Daniel, and Daniel reports to the king. That's how good Daniel was. I love this because an excellent spirit was in him. Daniel is a guy who has integrity, and he has shown that, and he's kind of established himself as a guy that can be trusted, a guy who gets the job done, a guy who you want over your whole kingdom. And so the king's going to do that. Verse 4, then the high officials and the satraps sought to find a ground for complaint against Daniel with regard to the kingdom, but they could find no ground for complaint or any fault, because he was faithful and no error or fault was found in him. They're like, let's get Daniel kicked out. I don't want him to be my boss. I like being my own boss and reporting to the king. I don't need this guy. So let's find something he's doing wrong. Let's find a conspiracy. Let's find some kind of scandal that we can tell the king about and get this guy kicked out. But they can't find anything because Daniel is a man of integrity, and there's nothing they can find that he's doing wrong. He's not cutting corners anywhere. He's not padding the books. He's not doing anything wrong. He's not even taking home post-it notes. He is doing everything right. Verse 5, then these men said, we shall not find any grounds for complaint against this Daniel unless we find it in connection with the law of his God. Because another thing they know about Daniel is while Daniel follows the law of the land, he only does that when it doesn't conflict with the law of his God. Right? Daniel is a man of integrity. Daniel is a faithful servant of the Lord God. And he is faithful in that first. And we've seen that through the other chapters. When Daniel first comes to Babylon and they're like, hey, eat this special royal food that's been sacrificed to idols. Daniel says no. He says, no, just give me water and vegetables and I'll eat that. Right? Because he will not sacrifice himself and break the law of God. All right, verse 6. Then these high officials and satraps came by agreement to the king and said to him, O King Darius, live forever. Let's butter him up, tell him how good he looks. Boy, that robe's fitting nice there, king. All the high officials of the kingdom, the prefects and the satraps, the counselors and the governors, are agreed that the king should establish an ordinance. Wait a minute, not all of them. I know of one who didn't agree to this. That the king should establish an ordinance and enforce an injunction that whoever makes petition to any god or man for 30 days, except to you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions, because you're so awesome. We only want to pray to you. We only want to ask things of you. We don't want to ask them of anybody else because you are the best. Verse 8, now, O king, establish the injunction and sign the document so that it cannot be changed, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which cannot be revoked. Therefore Darius signed the document and injunction. All right, so quick lesson on the law of the Medes and the Persians. The law of the Medes and the Persians is set up in a way so that should a king make a law, his successor can't undo that law, right? Because then, like in our government system, the new president spends, first 6 months of his term undoing the things he didn't agree with from the last guy. So the Medes and the Persians are set up so that that can't happen. New king comes in, the old king's laws, their law, they cannot change. Even you as king cannot change his laws. Now the flaw in this system is if a king like Darius sets up a law and then, a day later is like, oh, that was not a good idea, I shouldn't have done that. There's nothing he can do. It's law, and he can't change it either, even though he made it in the first place. That's a flaw in the system. But they buttered him up, and Darius is like, I think that's a great idea. Let's do it. Verse 10, when Daniel knew that the document had been signed, he went to his house, where he had a window in the upper chamber open toward Jerusalem. He got down on his knees there 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as he had done previously. So when Daniel finds out he's no longer allowed to pray, what does he do? He prays. He prays, and I love this comment at the end, as he had done previously. This is not a new thing. This isn't or Daniel saying, well, I'm not allowed to pray, then I'm gonna pray because I'm a rebel. No. This is Daniel saying, I'm not changing what I do. I'm not changing who I am. I used to pray. I'm going to continue to pray. He's not setting up a new thing that he's going to do in order to snub his nose at the government. No, he's going to keep doing what he's always done, regardless of whether it's legal or not. All right, verse 11. Then these men came by agreement and found Daniel making petition and plea before God. Then they came near and said before the king concerning the injunction, O king, did you not sign an injunction that anyone who makes petition to any god or man within 30 days, except to you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? Yeah, you know he did. It was your idea. The king answered and said, the thing stands fast according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which cannot be revoked. Then they answered and said before the king, Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judah, not Daniel, one of your high officials, Daniel, the guy who you're getting ready to put over everybody, Daniel, this guy who does an awesome job at his job. No, Daniel, one of the exiles. You got to run him down. We can't let him, we can't recognize him for how awesome he is. We gotta run him down. He pays no attention to you, O king, or the injunction you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day. Verse 14, then the king, when he heard these words, was much distressed, and set his mind to deliver Daniel. And he labored till the sun went down to rescue him. See, the king, at this point, realizes he's made a mistake. He's like, I let my ego get to me. I didn't even think about how this would affect Daniel, right? We do that sometimes. We make decisions based on how good it's going to be for us without regards to how it will affect other people. Daniel praying 3 times a day is not a secret. The king is well aware of this. The king knows that's how Daniel rolls, right? He knows Daniel prays 3 times a day. But in his haste to boost his own ego and to do what's best for Darius, he totally forgot about Daniel. And now he realizes, oh man, I've put my friend in a hard spot. My friend is in a tough spot, and it's my fault. And so he doesn't sleep that night. He spends all night poring over legal books and documents, trying to find some kind of loophole that will allow him to save his friend. But then the morning comes. Then these men came by agreement to the king and said to the king, know, O king, that it is a law of the Medes and the Persians, that no injunction or ordinance that the king establishes can be changed. Then the king commanded, and Daniel was brought and cast into the den of lions. The king declared to Daniel, may your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you. I love this phrase. He says it, he's going to say it again in verse 20 when we get there. But he says, may your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you. If you look that up in the Hebrew, it's got this sense of that this isn't just something that Daniel does. And it's not continually like we would say, like he does it all the time. But this is who Daniel is. This is where Daniel lives. Serving God is not a thing Daniel does. Serving God is who Daniel is. Because Daniel is a man of integrity. And he serves God in his room looking to the east. And he serves God in the kingdom. And he serves God when he's doing the books for the king. And he serves God when he's eating meals. He serves God continually. That's who he is. Can the same be said of you? Can the same be said of me? That we serve God continually. That serving God isn't what we do, but is who we are. Now, most of us know how the story turns out, but we'll go ahead and read it. It says, and a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, and with the signet of his lords, that nothing might be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting. No diversions were brought to him, and sleep fled from him. He goes, he doesn't eat, He doesn't Netflix and chill. He doesn't, play games on his phone. He doesn't do anything. No entertainment, no diversions were brought to him. Diversions back then would have been a little more not child appropriate. But he doesn't do that either. He spends the whole night fasting. He's not a religious guy, so I don't know that he prays, but he spends the night thinking about Daniel and about the mistake that he's made. 19. Then at break of day, the king arose and went in haste to the den of lions. He's running out there. He's like, okay, he spent the night in the den of lions. If by some chance he was able to climb up into a little corner and he's safe, I can let him out. Because he did it. I threw him in the lion's den. As he came near to the den where Daniel was, he cried out in a tone of anguish. The king declared to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, I lost my spot, been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. He still respects the king. He still loves the king. He still says, dude, I get it. You messed up. You made a bad call, and it affected me. But that's all right. My God's better than that. O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me, because I was found blameless before him, and also before you, O king. I have done no harm. Daniel is still a man of integrity. He says, I still haven't done anything wrong. Yeah, you signed a dumb law, and it conflicted with my God's law, so I followed his. And God judged that was the right thing. I know that because the lions didn't eat me. Verse 23, Then the king was exceedingly glad and commanded that Daniel be taken up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no kind of harm was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. And the king commanded that those men who had maliciously accused Daniel were brought and cast into the den of lions. Let's see if God rescues them. We'll give them the same trial that Daniel got. See how they do. Not just them, though. They, their children, and their wives. And before they reached the bottom of the den, the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces. Then King Darius wrote to all the peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, Peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in all my royal dominion people are to tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, enduring forever. His kingdom shall never be destroyed, and his dominion shall be to the end. He delivers and rescues. He works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. He who has saved Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Daniel was a man of integrity. And he ends up bringing the nation to kind of serve God. Now, they still kind of do it in a pagan way. It's not like the Persians become Christians or anything, but he promotes God and God's goodness and glory to the whole nation. Now, I'm not saying if you are a man of integrity or a woman of integrity that you're somehow going to make Christianity the national religion in America, because that's not going to happen. But I am saying that if you are a man of integrity, a woman of integrity, someone who keeps their word, someone who is trustworthy, well, people are going to notice that. People are going to notice that you are a person who's different. You're a person that they can trust. They can trust to get the job done. They can trust with their secrets. They can trust with their prayer requests. They can trust to talk to when things are going bad. If you are a person that they know, I can tell them the dirty things that are going on in my life that I don't want anybody to know about, and they won't tell anybody. That's huge. That's huge. It means people will come to you and they will seek your advice and they will ask you what to do in situations and you'll be able to tell them what God would want them to do. You'll be able to share with them God's plan for their lives. That's incredible. But that kind of thing only happens when we are people of integrity, when we are people who can be trusted, when we are people who the world looks at us and says, there's something different about him. There's something different about her. She's kind of strange, but in a good way. He's a little weird, but like in a good way. There's something different about them because we are people of integrity. One of my favorite things that I ever heard was Ken Idleman was the president of Ozark Christian College when I was a student there, and his son Kyle Idleman, who you may have heard of, he's kind of a big deal. He writes books and things, which are really good, by the way. But anyway, when Ken was getting ready to step down from being president, they made him chancellor for like 1 year, which was really weird. But anyway, he was getting ready to do that. People were talking about him and saying nice things and that kind of thing at the ceremony. And his son said, the thing I can say about my dad is he was the same person at home that he was on the stage. That's a big deal. I hope my kids can say that about me. That I was the same person at home that I was on the stage. Are you a person of integrity? Are you someone that people can trust? In this weird, crazy, messed up time, people need someone they can trust. Someone that they know, if I tell them something, it doesn't go any further. There's someone I can trust. There's someone who I think might have the answers, so I'm going to ask them. Think about that this week. Think about being a person of integrity, being someone that can be trusted, someone that can be turned to in times of distress, someone with integrity. I love you guys. Have a great week.